Hey, yes. Yes, we are live. College Talk Tuesday. Pearl and Andy Lockwood here to answer your college financial aid and admissions questions. She's Pearl.
Hi. Guess
Yeah,
who he is?
not Pearl.
Nope.
And we come to you every Tuesday, 11:30 Eastern, right here on this page. And if you ever have any questions that you're not getting answers to from, your guidance counselors or other parents or whatever, books, websites, people under a bridge, you name it, this is the place where you can get the honest, candid answers about chances of getting into college, about chances of getting scholarship money, financial aid. We're going to talk to you about the timelines, like what's happening now, what you should be doing, and when you should be doing it, all that type of stuff. So please, if you have any things you want us to talk about in the next half hour, pop them into comments. Please give us a like or a heart thing, a shout out, and drop a comment and let us know that you're here. So we have a couple things kind of pertinent, I guess, to talk about as we are in literally the last day of February here. Last episode of College Talk Tuesday for February.
Yeah.
Have some sort of milestone party.
Of course.
Got March Madness coming up, which is always fun because I fill out the financial the brackets, the NCAA men's basketball bracket based on financial aid eligibility because that's a good use of my time. But in terms of, let's see what's happening right now for juniors, class 2018 juniors. We're going to talk a little bit about seniors and younger kids also. But for juniors, a lot of them just gotten back their most recent SATs. And there are, I didn't bring the schedule with me, but it's almost like every month where there's either an SAT or an ACT, or occasionally there's both. And we're going to be announcing this formally to anyone who's on our email list, which is at collegeplanningguru.com, or if you want to be added, just stick a note in comments here. But we're going to be doing an open house a week from Saturday, which is the
11th.
Nice.
March 11th.
Yes, it's going to start at 9:30. That'll be registration. And we're going to have our tutor, Marissa, there, and Pearl just indicated that she will grace us with her presence. It's not really like a formal presentation thing. We're just going to be talking a little bit about the financial aid process, about the college coaching process, and about the tutoring process for ACT and SATs. I think Marissa wanted us to actually offer a diagnostic ACT or SAT. I can't remember which one, probably ACT. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if we're going to be doing that. We need to haul in a proctor for that. If you are interested in doing that, if you have a junior and you want to give them a little bit more practice,
Yeah.
what we did a couple of weeks ago, we're planning on repeating again, which is like a 3-hour mock half ACT. It's 2 45-minute sections, a break, and then a longer section, and then they're done. Then we grade it. There'll be a nominal fee. Just let us know if you're interested, I guess. But what's happening is, for juniors, there's just regular schoolwork, and then there's also the standardized tests, which are not going away. They're very important. If you didn't like your results, you need to get someone to help coach your kid through that process. And it doesn't have to be a one-on-one tutor like we have. It can be classes. It can be a lot of schools have classes that they run through other SAT prep companies, but you got to take it seriously.
And you got to do it sooner rather than later, because from the junior year on, in terms of college preparation, the year and the 2 years unfold like an avalanche. So if you don't get ahead of that curve,
Nice analogy.
it's true. If you don't get ahead of the game, then you're still going to have those tasks ahead of you, and perhaps the other tasks that should be done at those times might get sacrificed if you wait and hold everything till the last minute.
The whole process is really pressure packed, and one of the biggest issues that people underestimate, or that gets created because they underestimate, is how much time is involved, how much time you need to adequately prepare for one ACT or one SAT test. And I think it's a minimum of 20 hours of tutoring is recommended. I usually see 30 hours recommended. So that's a lot.
Right, and we're mindful of the fact that, yes, juniors and competitive juniors have a rigorous schedule, and junior year demands a lot, but that's true of anybody else who's a junior.
Well, that's the
It
thing.
doesn't mean
Yeah.
you want to put it off till your senior year, because then you're going to be mired down in application deadlines, essays, trying to maybe cram in and better your score from previous
Regular
score.
schoolwork.
Regular schoolwork.
Yeah.
Perhaps some fun. Yeah.
Well, I mean, most people who are taking hard classes report, and I hate to break the news to you, report that the first half of senior year is much harder than junior year.
And we are finding more and more, everyone thinks, oh, it's the 3 years that count and then you get to coast. But we're finding more and more mid-year senior requests from college for grades. And before decisions come out, and we have noticed a very material impact, on
So moving.
a very
over.
material impact on those senior year grades and the admissions decisions.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So anyway, I just heard actually from Marissa, from our tutor, that the SAT was adding an August test date, and she thinks that, I think she said the ACT was also adding an August test date, although I couldn't confirm that when I looked it up on the website. It doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that there's going to be more opportunities. There's also been other changes that have been documented in many other places, including this show, about the changes to the SAT. So they're not going away because it's very hard for admissions officers to figure out whether a kid is qualified to do the work there, because there's so much, let's face it, grade inflation, there's so much extracurricular activities in school, out of school, including pay-to-play extracurricular activities. No kids ever get a bad recommendation from a high school teacher. They're all glowing.
It's very challenging to level the playing field.
Well, if you're an admissions officer, you really have to scratch your head and
Yeah.
figure out how qualified someone is. And time and again, we have examples of kids who have high GPAs, but their test scores come in lower, and the parents are like beside themselves. They can't figure out how that could possibly be. It's very common, and it may or may not be because of grade inflation, but it's just very common. The good news is that with effective preparation and coaching, you can actually improve your scores. And a lot of kids think that they can do it on their own, and to be fair, I think many kids can, but what I want to just point out is that it's one thing to take practice tests over and over again. You can buy an ACT or an SAT book of past tests. Actually, I don't know if you can do that yet with the SAT because of the new format. There's more materials for the ACT to study from. But what happens, at least according to Marissa, our tutor, is that a lot of the kids will just take the tests over and over again, but they won't analyze their answers, like why they got them wrong. And to me, that's kind of like, okay, so here's a book. I'm going to go learn how to hit a golf ball. So I'm going to go to the driving range and look at my book. Yeah, and reinforce bad habits.
Right,
without a coach or someone overseeing to correct them. So again, whether it's with us, whether it's with other resources, I think every kid would benefit from at least some oversight from someone qualified as a coach. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about financial aid stuff.
Okay.
So right now we are, again, end of February.
Yeah.
We're continuing to hear from colleges. We haven't heard from every college in terms of their financial aid offers. Most scholarship offers have come in, right?
Pretty much, I would say. But then there are just regular decision applicants. Again? Yes, there are regular decision applicants that have not even heard back one way or the other yet. It's still a bit early. Yeah, it is only it's the last day of February, but typically it's mid-April. So too with financial aid awards, unless one applies early decision, early action. Of course, the change in the income year that's used, that happened this current year. This is the first year where we're having a prior,
or PPY, as I like to call it.
Right, or now we are using the 2015 tax return for the FAFSA and for the CSS profile
for people graduating
2017.
Right.
Well, and anybody else who is currently enrolled in college and is renewing their financial aid.
Interesting.
We still use that 2015 tax return.
And if you're a parent of a junior, 2018 grad, that means 2016, this year that just finished, is your year that they look at for income.
That's correct. So
2016 is your PPY.
Yes. Well, so with that, we were hoping to see financial aid awards come in sooner than mid-April, because that was the initial policy behind making a prior income year, so that schools can give with finality an award and have a family have that award in their thoughts when making and planning and making a decision as for college for more than just a week before they have to commit and submit a housing deposit at any one school.
You know what, a lot of kids, so the traditional drop dead deadline for the housing deposit is May 1st, but I was talking to a client yesterday, Jake, who is accepted to a bunch of state schools, including Auburn, and Auburn has, you know, the housing's first come, first serve. So his question to me was, should I put the housing deposit in now? Is that going to hurt your chances of being able to negotiate an award with them? And my answer was, in an abstract sense, in a vacuum, then yeah, it does hurt slightly your chances of getting being able to negotiate, because you're indicating to them that you're coming. But really, there's two things. Number one, state schools are very hard to negotiate with in terms of getting more money from them, because they just don't have that much to give. They don't have the endowments the way the private schools do, which is why a lot of people are surprised that private school colleges, even though they have high sticker prices, can actually end up being less expensive than state schools, by the way. So that was the first point. The second point is, it's common practice, or it's common enough of a practice for families to put down housing deposits and then walk as a defensive move and then walk away from them. It's not ideal. I think it's actually technically it may be a violation of whatever agreement you are making with the college. It depends on the school. So you have to read that very, very carefully. But if you have to walk away from a $500 or $250 or whatever it is type of deposit, you know, when college costs $40,000 to $60,000, $70,000 a year, you know, it's small potatoes.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So, and if you're like Jake, if you're in danger of losing out on the primo housing situation, I would not wait around.
Don't jeopardize it.
Yeah, I wouldn't jeopardize it at all. I would not wait around in the hopes that you can improve the offer, but you want to maximize your leverage. I think it makes sense in a vacuum, but I don't think it would make sense in this situation. So I'd rather have a kid be happy for a few extra dollars than not be happy. If you're just joining us, please say hi in the comments. Please like, comment, and share. And if you have any college-related questions, either live, or we usually get a couple hundred people or more actually viewing this on replay, put that in the comment section, and we will ultimately ping you back with a response in the next couple of days once we go through all the comments. So we talked about the open house. We talked a little bit about the financial aid sitch. Can we talk a little bit about how to evaluate an award, whether it's fair or not?
Sure.
And we have this tool that, I don't know if you got my email today, about trying to make some predictions for some 2018 kids. So do you feel comfortable talking about that? And you're leaning out of the frame when you do that.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
You're so fidgety. So, okay, talk about it. Go. How's it work?
How
do you
does what
evaluate?
work?
Your software, how do you evaluate awards?
Okay, well, I mean, how does the whole thing work?
How do you know if an award is fair or not, and how do you predict awards, financial aid awards?
Okay, well, it depends first what tool the school is using to evaluate an award. Some schools use just the FAFSA, and some schools will use the CSS profile and the FAFSA when determining a financial aid award. The FAFSA, once you submit it,
You're listing again.
What am I doing? I'm leaning out?
Yeah, don't lean. Yeah.
All right, I'll lean this way.
This is your border. Don't go past that. It's like Les Nessman on WKRP. Don't go past that line.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, so if you are at a school that requires, let's say, the FAFSA only, you submit it, and out pops on your confirmation page your EFC, your expected family contribution. That number is the first part of this formula that the schools will then take that number and how much, okay, so EFC is the number it spits out. The cost of attendance at each school varies. Certainly state schools, we know the cost of attendance to be less expensive than private institutions. Okay, so you have the cost of attendance minus the EFC, which is your expected family contribution, equals your need. Now, how much need any particular school meets varies between the schools. So that's the first thing that a lot of people sometimes forget about, and they just look at their EFC and think, oh, that's what I have to pay, and that's the end of the story, and that's that. And that's not the end of the story. And
at most colleges, but there are, to be fair, there are 60 colleges that will meet 100% of need, roughly 60 colleges.
right.
But
So
for the other, 3,900 or whatever, 800 something, then you will pay a percentage. They will meet a percentage of your need, which means you'll pay your EFC plus the unmet need by the school.
that's right. And this is separate and apart from any merit-based award you might be entitled to that might help you with that expected family contribution. But in any case, this is where each school begins its decision. In terms of fairness of award, in terms of merit,
Well. So when I was talking to the guy who makes the software that Pearl's been using for the last 3 years or so,
at least
3 years, 4
I
years,
think it's a long.
and he introduced a function that we really hadn't been paying too much attention to until recently, and that what that did was let you plug in not only your financial aid awards from each school, but also grades and SAT or ACT
Right.
scores and all that. And then the engine would calculate all that stuff versus the average awards for kids that in the data sample that our software pulls in. The jury's still out on whether it's 100. It's definitely not 100% accurate,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems like I think what he was saying to me yesterday, was Stuart, the software guy, is that it seems like schools are being a little more generous for merit-based money than they had been in previous years, and I think a lot of that, which is good news, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that schools have recognized that they need to do whatever they can to lure qualified, attractive candidates to them versus the other competitors that are looking for the same kids. So there's a few implications for that. Number one is that we can help anybody evaluate or project their financial aid awards, and we can also help people evaluate their financial aid awards after they've been given to see whether they're fair or whether there's room for any type of improvement. And then the rest of the story is that it makes sense to apply when you're finalizing your college list as a junior, hopefully over the summer of junior year going into senior year. It really makes sense to have several colleges that compete with each other, just so that you can solicit these other offers, because it looks like that trend, which I felt, before I had this conversation about the software, it looks like that trend is going to continue, and that's beneficial, I think, to people applying to college.
That's right, especially if and you are applying to these competing schools for different reasons. You're applying because you want to compete academically, but you also want to compete when you're getting various financial aid awards, and you want to be able to have them in your arsenal when you play them off of the school you want to go to.
Yep.
It's a very important negotiating tool.
All right, let's pause for a viewer mailbag question. All right, so
Okay.
Rosemary Whistler's watching, and she is asking, I guess this is one for me, we are already paying a math tutor every week. I'm wondering if there's any free, quote unquote, ACT prep out there that you recommend. So yeah, so ACT prep, what I would suggest is there isn't the equivalent, like for SAT prep. I know you're not asking that, Rosemary, but for SAT prep, there is the Khan Academy partnered with the College Board, and they have all sorts of free SAT prep videos. For ACT, you've got a couple options. One, you can buy the book of previous tests. So, and there's a lot of that material out there because the ACT in its current format has been around for years. That's one thing. You could also check with your guidance counselor, because a lot of guidance counselors have access to materials that regular people don't have access to, or they have arrangements with test prep companies that come in and offer things online for either free or for very, very low price. as well as classes, which of course are not free. So those are the steps that I would recommend. But you have to understand that you kind of get what you pay for, so your best results are probably, in general, if I had to, to make a blanket sweeping statement, they're not going to come from the free stuff. They're going to come from paying someone in some way, shape, or form, either as a class or as a individual tutor to help, just because you've got more accountability. If you have a student and a coach type of situation, you definitely have someone who's more of an expert who can help you improve your scores as well as shortcut your time. And that's there are strategies on the test. Like we're gonna be releasing this probably in a few days because I messed up the recording the first time. But I was interviewing our tutor, and she talked about some of the most common mistakes or myths or misconceptions about the ACT and the SAT, and one of them was that you should do all of the easy ones first and all the hard ones first, and then leave the easy ones for later. Well, well, I mean, I could see it either way, which might be why I was confused there. But the answer is you should do the easy ones. They count just the same as the hard ones.
Low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. So you take care of the easy ones first and leave the harder ones for later. And that's a strategy that I may not personally have done where I've taken the ACT or SAT again. So there's all sorts of tidbits you can get from someone who's actually qualified to hold themselves out there as an ACT tutor. Okay. All right. What else do we have to talk about? I brought as a little bit of a crutch here a bunch of questions that we had received.
Well, I will ask you this because
Sure.
I do get this question, especially for younger families. How do you know whether you should take the ACT or the SAT?
Yeah. The answer is you really don't know until you've done at least a diagnostic for each. I believe, and the numbers may be skewed because the SAT format has changed, but I believe that most people, like 70% or so, people do about the same on either test. So then it comes down to whatever you're most comfortable with. But you could be, one of the types of kids or families, I guess, kids, who do better with one versus the other. So take both. You don't really know until you do it. And in general, the ACT is harder in terms of number of questions per hour. There's more questions per hour compared to the SAT. And there's a science section on the ACT, and some kids think, well, I'm not really good at science, so maybe I shouldn't take the ACT. I would say that's not really the main consideration, because even though it's a science question, it's really more of a glorified readings. Yeah, because there's charts and graphs and things like that. There's very little like pure science stuff. So you have to take a look at both and make a decision. And if you need help, you ask your tutor or your teacher. Yeah. So I think we have. Let me see here. So looks like I got that question for Rosemary, and I think we have enough stuff here to wrap this episode up. What do you think?
Okay, I did too.
I have to go play a practical joke on our 6th grader right now, so I have a very busy day ahead of me.
Yes.
You're going to a doctor as opposed to having lunch with me.
Sorry.
Doesn't seem that sorry. So we're going to call it a wrap for this week's College Talk Tuesday. If you have any types of college planning questions, just drop them in the comments. We will get to them in the next day or so. And mark your calendars for Saturday, March 11th, 9:30 in the morning in our offices in Jericho, because we are doing a college planning open house, which will be open to I think we can fit about 25 people max to come in and have their questions. You can bring your kids, have your questions answered about college prep, ACT, SAT prep, our financial aid forms. Maven Pearl has just committed. We just landed her. So it's going to be an all-out college planning extravaganza.
Fest.
Yes. Palooza.
Woo! In anticipation of Patty's Day. We'll be a few days before St.
Is that a Jamaican accent? Will you be in costume at the open house?
Well, let's leave it a little mysterious, shall we?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thanks a lot for watching Pearl and Andy Lockwood College Talk Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow morning, 8:30, with College Coffee Talk, where I continue to answer questions that we have received over the past 2 years through live workshops, webinars, you name it, and there seems to be no end in sight. We keep getting more and more questions, so this is a good way for me to make sure I'm getting the information out that you guys want to know, not necessarily what Pearl or I think you should know. Okay, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.
Bye.